With this issue of The Jump, issue 4.1, we are launching our new site design. Over the past year, I've been able to work with last year's managing editor Megan Gianfagna and technology specialist and site designer Mike Widner, now of Stanford University, to give the Journal for Undergraduate Multimedia Projects a bit of a facelift. In the new site, we have augmented our aesthetic, we've added a few new features, and even increased our functionality from our submission process to accessibility concerns. Additionally, we've worked to become more and more ensconced in the digital writing and research lab at the University of Texas at Austin, becoming part of their project group structure. As such, Megan has been able to pass the managerial torch to this year's co-managing editors, Rachel Mazik and Stephen Lemieux. I'd like to welcome Rachel and Stephen to their new co-managing editor roles, and I'll now turn it over to them to provide you with the introduction to this issue of The Jump.
Hi, I'm Rachel.
And I'm Stephen.
We're the co-managing editors of this issue of The Jump. In this issue, as in others, we have a variety of media, from a website to a PowerPoint to a video remix. Across the range of mediums, we see topics that all engage with the tensions inherent in issues of digital limits and boundaries. These projects engage with the tensions on different scales, from the global to the national to the personal. The first project, Digital Media Proliferation Around the World, by the students of Stefka Hristova's Introduction to Digital Media class at Michigan Technological University, explore the ways in which our digital world is expanding. Their map depicts the distribution of technology across global time zones. Although the 17 students who created this project show us how digital media has and is proliferating, they also, as one responder noted, act as tour guides as they take us through different countries and cities, highlighting the uneven distribution of digital media. They map the boundaries of our digital world.
Throughout this project, they highlight that the boundaries we encounter in digital media aren't contained only within the digital, but that these boundaries are also formed within physical, cultural, and historical constraints. They show that there's no consistent digital, and by mapping the different levels of digital proliferation onto specific areas of the world, they show that the physical world is always pushing against whatever boundaries we draw upon the digital world.
Kevin Morton and L.A. Chabot of Wheaton College, on the other hand, point us to a bill, S978, and argue that this bill would constrict the proliferation of digital media by creating more boundaries and more limits by controlling the ways in which Internet users interact with and publish remixed work. Their remix argues against S978 and depicts it as a bill that, in a sense, prevents remix or expands copyright law, making infringement a felony. They argue that these increased protections of commercialized, copyrighted digital content, or these governmental boundaries and limits, would be detrimental to the purposes of the Internet.
In a remix, too, some of the fun for the audience is in identifying the play of boundaries inherent to the genre. Boundaries are blurred. You often can't quite pinpoint where exactly some piece of the now combined text is coming from. But at the same time, these boundaries are highlighted precisely by placing diverse texts in such close proximity.
The third and final project of this issue is a multimodal representation of Kate Chopin's The Story of an Hour. Megan Cross, from the University of Findlay, represents this published text to highlight the emotional features of the story and emphasize its rhetorical effects. In a sense, Cross remixes Chopin's story, reordering the appearance of its words, and if this multimodal remix or representation of a published text were prohibited, then the project itself exemplifies this whole theme of the boundaries of the digital world.
Where do we draw the line? Or where should we draw lines to create borders? Should the digital world be a space without limits? Cross's piece 2 highlights boundaries between plain text and digital presentation. She calls attention to the limits that we associate with different technologies. In this piece, PowerPoint is represented as well. It shifts from a piece of business software into a storytelling tool. Across this range of projects, we see the theme of tensions between an ever-expanding digitized world that highlights some of these stark boundaries that both continue to separate and bring us closer together. They create the desire for closure and contraction.